Alright, today is a beautiful, beautiful day because of the breaking news we just received. Reports say that Donald Trump has officially informed Attorney General Pam Bondi that her time is coming to an end. She's getting the Kristi Noem treatment. On top of that, there are reports that Trump has been polling his advisors about whether Tulsi Gabbard, the current director of national intelligence, should also be replaced. You can paint a pretty clear picture of an administration in turmoil, one that's rapidly slipping in the polls. Trump appears to be opening the floodgates when it comes to replacements and you're fired moments. It seemed like he was trying to avoid a high turnover rate during the first year of his presidency, especially since one of the biggest criticisms from his first term was that he had something like a 90% turnover rate. Back then, it felt like every month brought a new advisor, a new chief of staff, or a new national security official. Everything changed so quickly. This time, it looked like Trump was trying to maintain a steady hand, but that's clearly falling apart. You can see the cracks forming, especially with AG Pam Bondi leaving less than a month after Kristi Noem was pushed out. And now it seems like Tulsi Gabbard could be next. At this point, you have to wonder, what's going on? Is he just getting rid of all the women in his administration? But make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the Machine Marvel feed, and help us reach 2 million subscribers. I'll also be on CNN Newsnight at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central tonight, so be sure to tune in. And don't forget to check out yesterday's video on the YouTube channel. Let's start with the breaking news. The president has informed Pam Bondi that her time in the role is nearing an end. Multiple sources say a formal announcement hasn't been made yet, so, as always, there's a chance he could change his mind. He's been speaking with advisors about a possible replacement. However, the reporting I'm seeing suggests this is essentially a done deal, and that Bondi will be replaced imminently. Before we get into Tulsi Gabbard, Kristi Noem, and the broader picture of an administration that appears to be unraveling, I want to take a quick trip down memory lane. Let's look at some of the moments that helped get Pam Bondi into this position. She hasn't been a strong communicator, and her performance as an operator or leader has raised serious concerns. There's a clip from February 2025 where Bondi may have opened the door to what could become one of Trump's biggest scandals so far. At that moment, she went on Fox News and confidently said, "I have the files right here on my desk." That moment seems to connect directly to the chain of events that followed, particularly the controversy surrounding the Epstein files. It may not be just that one clip, but everything that came after it likely played a role in her removal. Let's take a look at that clip.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
I had forgotten that in that clip she says this all came at the direction of the president. At the same time, President Trump kept insisting it was all a hoax and that none of it was real. Then Elon Musk came out and said Trump was in the files, and Trump immediately reacted strongly to that. So it's definitely worth going back and watching that Pam Bondi clip. Now consider this headline about Pam Bondi. Her DOJ was forced to lower hiring standards after lawyers started leaving in large numbers. Think about what that means. Not only was she unable to keep talent, but lawyers were resigning from the DOJ in waves. If you remember, many of them left the Civil Rights Division after Renee Good and Alex Prey were shot. They were saying, "This is wrong. The Civil Rights Division of the DOJ is mishandling the investigation into these deaths." So under Pam Bondi, there were mass resignations, and they struggled to bring in new people. As a result, they lowered hiring standards. Her Department of Justice began recruiting prosecutors with no experience after a major exodus of employees since Donald Trump returned to office for a second time. Around 5,500 attorneys and staff either quit, were fired or accepted buyouts, leaving major gaps across the department. About 2/3 of the attorneys responsible for defending Trump's key policies left, and the Civil Rights Division continued losing prosecutors after the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Prey. It's hard to ignore just how many mistakes Pam Bondi made over the past year. And then there's this. Speaking of questionable hiring decisions, do you remember the post Donald Trump directed at Pam Bondi in September of 2025? Looking back, it almost feels like a warning sign, because even then, he didn't seem satisfied with her. Honestly, this should be recorded in every history book. It's one of the most troubling and authoritarian statements I've seen. I'll admit, I got frustrated earlier while trying to find it. I searched for things like Donald Trump Pam Bondi threat and Donald Trump Pam Bondi post Letitia James, and it took 4 or 5 attempts to locate it. That's what bothered me. This post should be easy for everyone to find. It represents something much bigger. It could be seen as a moment that highlighted serious risks to American democracy. It shows Donald Trump attempting to use Pam Bondi in a way that could undermine that system. Let me read part of it so you remember. He said, quote, "Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially, same old story as last time. All talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about James Comey? What about Adam Shifty Schiff? What about Letitia James? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done." Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past. He went on to say that Lindsay Halligan is a great lawyer and that she likes you a lot. He added, "They've impeached me twice and indicted me. Justice must be served now." After that, Pam Bondi appointed Lindsay Halligan as a prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia. That case was later dismissed. There was also another special prosecutor pursuing Letitia James, James Comey and others, but those efforts were also quickly thrown out. Still, Donald Trump clearly pushed for it. He directed Pam Bondi to stay aligned with him. In many ways, her constant support of Trump ended up hurting her. The issue with the Epstein files wasn't that she distanced herself from him, it was that her communication fell apart because she was trying so hard to defend and align with him. By going on television day after day, minimizing the situation, defending Trump, and standing firmly by him, she weakened the administration's credibility. Altogether, it's deeply concerning. It reflects an attempt by Donald Trump to use the Department of Justice against political opponents over claims like so-called mortgage fraud, which ultimately didn't hold up. Every case was dismissed. It almost feels absurd in hindsight. And that brings us to Tulsi Gabbard, who is now facing her own challenges. An article from The Guardian states, Trump polled advisors about replacing Tulsi Gabbard as intelligence chief. Exclusive, pressure grows on Gabbard following the president's dissatisfaction with her Iran war testimony. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard has clearly been strongly opposed to wars in the Middle East for many years. There are tweets from 2018 where she said that if anyone ever pushed the country into another Middle Eastern war, she would be completely against it. She has always made her position very clear. Now, she finds herself stuck in a very difficult situation. As the Director of National Intelligence, she is supposed to brief the president on intelligence and ongoing conflicts. But the president doesn't seem to follow her assessments and continues moving toward war in a way that appears aggressive, unilateral, and aligned with Israel, without congressional approval. That left Tulsi Gabbard in a complicated position when she testified before Congress about 2 weeks ago. You might remember that she was repeatedly questioned about nuclear weapons, and she struggled to give a clear answer about whether there was an immediate threat. She strongly suggested there wasn't. She also indicated that Iran was not actively developing nuclear weapons. While she didn't say it directly, her responses made it seem like she believed Trump was spreading misleading information about Iran's nuclear capabilities or potential. As a result, Donald Trump is reportedly very frustrated and may consider replacing her. This also brings up another figure, J.D. Vance. It seems unlikely that Donald Trump will quickly or easily endorse him. Trump has been asked 5 times whether he would support J.D. Vance, and each time he has avoided giving a clear endorsement. Instead, he has recently appeared more enthusiastic about Marco Rubio. It wouldn't be surprising if Trump starts asking his advisors and polling them on whether to back Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance in 2028. That situation would be a serious setback for J.D. Vance, a vice president not fully supported by his own president. And then imagine J.D. Vance continuing as vice president for another 4 years. That would be a difficult scenario. At the same time, there's an almost ironic possibility. Trump could endorse Marco Rubio, Rubio could then choose J.D. Vance again as vice president, and they could still end up losing. That would be quite a turn of events. To continue, Tulsi Gabbard is now facing growing pressure. Reports say Donald Trump has been privately asking cabinet members in recent weeks whether he should replace his Director of National Intelligence. He has expressed frustration that she protected a former deputy who challenged his justification for going to war with Iran. That deputy is Joe Kent, who resigned and stated that Donald Trump was not telling the truth. Tulsi Gabbard has not fully supported Joe Kent, but she also hasn't strongly defended Donald Trump either. Trump would likely want her to fully back him, but she hasn't taken that step. At this point, it's still unclear whether Trump will actually remove Gabbard. There isn't an obvious replacement ready to step in. It's important to point out that this situation is different from the one involving Pam Bondi. In Bondi's case, the decision appears final. She is expected to be removed, and the president has already informed her that her time as Attorney General is coming to an end. With Tulsi Gabbard, however, Trump is still discussing the idea and seeking opinions. Even so, it reflects a broader pattern of instability within the administration. Joe Biden did not experience this level of turnover in such a short period. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's approval ratings are dropping significantly, and it seems he is trying to reshuffle the people around him. It's almost like he's attempting to reset things, hoping a new group will perform better than the last. But that approach may not work. The next Attorney General is expected to be Lee Zeldin. He may be somewhat more credible than Pam Bondi, but the standard is quite low. Overall, Trump has assembled a cabinet that many view as ineffective. Pete Hegseth has faced allegations of alcohol issues and struggles to stay composed, even relying on AI to write speeches. Pam Bondi has been criticized over the Epstein files and for repeated missteps. Kash Patel has his own controversies, including concerns about how taxpayer money is being used. Tulsi Gabbard does not fully align with Trump on many issues. And one of Trump's closest allies, Stephen Miller, is widely seen as highly controversial. Altogether, it paints a picture of a deeply troubled team. I'll leave it there. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.